Well, let's take just a couple of seconds, and if you'll just turn to your tables and tell them about your first NWFA. That's part of an example of sort of experiential marketing, so if you guys could do that real quick, that'd be great. All right, so now that you've shared some memories of your first experiences with NWFA at your first show, do you now feel better or worse about NWFA having shared your experience with somebody next to you? Better? Better. Because you just shared your experience, and that's really what this is all about. Is when we talk about experiential marketing, we're talking about how you share experiences together that really help you build your business. And I have actually 3 stories of wood flooring installations in my own homes that I can promise you could have been better experiences. And I did all of them kind of as a mystery shopper, so the people that were installing didn't know necessarily who I was. And I can tell you that if you've taken anything out of the last 2 sessions, if you were with us, it's that the experience of your company and the people that are going to buy product from you are going to remember the installer that was in their house. They're not going to remember the person that sold them the job as much as they're going to remember that last guy that they asked, how do I take care of my floors? Why does that look like that? And if that guy or gal can't communicate to the consumer about what the consumer's questions are, the whole sale just went bad, because they're going to talk about that experience. Yeah, it was a great product and I really like it, but man, that was really tough to get installed. They were 3 days late, getting everything done. Those are the things that people remember as the experience. They're still going to love their floor, but they're not going to necessarily tell somebody to buy from your company. They're not necessarily going to recommend you as a service. And I know a lot of times we think that this is a one-time incremental sale, that you sell the floor, you put it in, and you're done. But that's not really the case. Because that language, and that everybody has these experiences. You guys just shared your experiences with each other. Your consumers, your customers do the same thing. They share with their families, they share with their friends. And so that's usually where a referral comes from, or that's where people learn things. But the truth is, my last installation was awesome. It really was. I was just going to see if you're listening, pay attention. I kind of made that up. But anyway, no, it is really true. We walked into a store the first day, and no one talked to us. No one walked up to us. No one said, how can I help you? And so we basically had to sell ourselves our own floor. And then we went back later that evening, and the person we'd been with that morning wasn't there anymore. So then the guy didn't want to sell us the product because we'd already talked to somebody else who was going to get the commission off of that. So it does happen, and it's at all points in the process. So I just think it's really important to remember that. And if you guys sat through the first 2 sessions this morning, how many of you were in either of those this morning? Good. Because really the first session talked about the way we make decisions, and that's based on your feelings about different things. So one of the examples was Coke versus Pepsi, and Pepsi basically brands themselves with happiness. That's what they're selling in the marketplace. So the feelings that you have toward Coke are completely different than they are Pepsi, because you relate that to happiness. And so in the second series, we learned how Meritz does this within their own company. And I've had the pleasure of serving on the Meritz advisory board, customer advisory board, for the last 4 years, and that's how we've learned about experiential design and how you market experience. And so one of the ways we did that was with our show in St. Louis last year. How many of you were in St. Louis last year? So hopefully that show felt a little bit different, and maybe this one does too, to years past, because what we tried to do was think about your experience, not just how many bars do we need, how many people are we going to have, the logistics of it. As we started looking at how does everybody show up and experience NWFA, because it is a very personal experience. So what happens from the moment you land in the destination all the way through till you get back on the plane, and then even after, how do we extend that experience so that when you get home, you have your relationship with NWFA continues. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to build community. And that's one of the reasons I wanted you guys to share with each other, because now I think you're a little bit closer than you were before you walked in the room, and maybe you know somebody else's experience with NWFA, and that can ultimately lead to your own. Because what we decided our core purpose was really to build community. And so last year with the expo, we built everything around community, whether that was community service projects, like the Gary Sinise Foundation, where you guys could then go out in your local communities and build community around that, but still tied to NWFA. The more you experience NWFA as a positive thing in your life, the more engaged you'll be, the more committees you'll serve on, the faster we can change the industry with the more buy-in that we have. And so that's really where we decided from Expo to really map out the experience from the opening, when you land, we had people in the airport who were there to greet you from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. When you got to this year, we've added when you get to registration, we have a hospitality area. We're hoping to build that out later. As we continue this idea that you'll hang out there and meet people. We had our staff actually working registration this year instead of just the temps we usually hire in each city. So that again, you're building that relationship with us, and your experience is completely different than just showing up to a show where people don't care about you, because ultimately we want you guys to go home remembering that the people at NWFA care about you, that we're by the industry, for the industry, and the staff works for you. And so that's an important piece that we want everybody to understand. But that's part of our marketing platform too, is that you're going to share that experience with somebody else who may need the training. You're going to share that experience or bring more of your people next year and help us continue to build the show and continue to do good things in the marketplace. So that's our experience. And we asked these three gentlemen to participate with us today because we happen to know their stories. We know what they do from an experience marketing standpoint. So who'd like to start? Jeff?
Sure. Thank you. We started a program about 8 years ago. We manufacture sanding machines in Germany. We have our factories there. We wanted to get a deeper relationship with our customers, basically create a sales force that can say things and do things that we can't do. So we started taking groups of 10 to 12 to the factory for an expense-paid trip. It's a very expensive endeavor, but it's paid back a million times over for us. So it's really us selling a deeper connection with our customer. I realize not everybody can do something like that, but you can find a way to do that. And I think that's it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Jeff, how do we sign up for that trip?
Show of hands, who wants to go to Germany?
I think we're going to need another 747, Mike.
Jesse, I know that when you were at one of our expos a few years ago in, is that Orlando? Orlando. You're going to talk a little bit about the experience that you had there that you were able to go back and kind of change your company with. So with that, I'll let you talk about it.
All right.
Ken Schmidt.
Appreciate you guys coming out to hear us four guys talk. We had I guess back in 2012, they had Ken Schmidt from Harley-Davidson at the Orlando NWFA convention. He's the opening speaker, and it was a time that I really had a personal experience where we're a plank manufacturer, and so I thought we always made great plank quality products. You know, we were always focused on customer service. And then I'll never forget it was Ken started, he brought up a slideshow and he started flashing through these web pages, and it was, you know, everybody has qualities, you know, they're all about customer service, you know, quality. You've got to do something that's different than just talking about what a great quality person you are and what a great quality product. It was more about, you've got to be extraordinary, you've got to be different, you've got to really connect with your customer. You've got to be more than just, you know, really saying that you're quality. And so it really shocked me because I started looking around at all my competitors, and I was trying to figure out, I know my product and the company that we have is special, but the same things that if somebody asked me why it was special is the same things that everybody else says, and that didn't make me feel real special. And so it was a real reflection for me, and I started thinking, I was like, what is it really that makes us special? And it really wasn't about what we did, but it was about why we did it that made us special. We had, it wasn't necessarily about making quality plank as much as it was about, we wanted to share with, you know, the NWFA community, the wood flooring community, the world, basically, our Tennessee hardwoods, how great our flooring was, and also the talented craftsmanship that we had at our company. Because I was really proud of all those guys, and I started thinking about how do we share that story that makes us special. And it was not about making, it wasn't about profits or, you know, getting cheap flooring out to everybody. It was more about looking after the success of our employees, our customers, customers. And I think that's really where we were able to make that connection. And so the more I thought about that after listening to Ken Schmidt at the Orlando, I started thinking, what's the best way to do that? And that's when I started thinking back to one of my personal experiences. In fact, before we even were running flooring, I went to the wood flooring basic school, and I'd met Wayne Lee, and I was like, that was my introduction into wood flooring. I never laid any wood flooring, and Wayne was basically showing me this is how it's done. And if anybody's met Wayne, it's like that was a very engaging experience for me. It was something that I always, it's like always remembered it. And at the time, Wayne was working for American Sanders and as a training guy. And I'd see like 3M and Duracell, and they're always, they've got these guys that are out there, going out and really making personal connections with the guys that are actually doing the work. It's not necessarily the distributor that's buying the product and selling it, but they're really connecting with the end user. And I started thinking, I was like, that's really what makes us different, is that we're not focused on so much selling the most flooring or making these extreme products, but we were more focused on really connecting with that customer, because you guys are the ones that are going to make those floors really shine for us. So I started talking to Wayne at that time, and I was like, I really want to get involved with these the NWFA trainings, and I'd like to support local contractors and really start making that connection with those guys. And so I called Wayne, and I was like, Wayne, the NWFA is doing these regional trainings. I said, would you mind, if we covered your expenses, would you mind going out there and, helping on our behalf? And Wayne, at the time, I guess Wayne had just, he had just left American Sanders, and so he was out, contracting on his own. And Wayne's like, well, he said, that sounds great, but he's like, really, what I'd like to do is just come work for you full time. And it was one of those experiences where you start thinking, it's like I was willing to invest, 3 or 4 times a year, but I was like, a manufacturer hiring a full-time training guy, I was like, that doesn't really, nobody else does that. I was like in the unfinished wood flooring plank business. But the more I thought about it, I was like, this is really one of those times where, take a risk. And so I remember calling Wayne back that next day and saying, come on. I was like, let's see what we can do. And we started sending Wayne out into the field. And remember the first few customers we called, we were like, we'd like Wayne to come out there and kind of talk to your guys, get some feedback, what could make us a better plank manufacturer, because the guys that are actually, the guys that are putting it down, that's where we really wanted to get our feedback from. And they're like, well, that's fine, do we have to pay for his hotel room or, and I was like, no, this is something that we want, to offer to these guys that couldn't come to St. Louis and so we started sending Wayne out on the road and making those connections and really focusing on creating those relationships and those personal experiences with not necessarily the people that were buying our product, but the guys that were buying our product from, through distribution. And it's really, I guess, over the past 2 or 3, 4 years, it's really paid great dividends for us. We were also, instead of just focusing on the success of our customers, we were also really wanted to focus on the success of our family, and I wanted to share, we've got great people that work for us, and was starting to try to think of different ways to make those personal connections. We always talk about, giving them positive, bonuses or positive feedback, but we wanted something a little bit different. And we always call them, they're team members or their family, and it's funny because what happens is we call them family, but we don't really treat them like family, And I was like, I love these guys like family, so we wanted to really start doing that. And talking to them, we have about 100 15 employees, and a lot of them have, been in Dixon County their entire lives. Some of them, a lot of them have not been out of state, and it was happened to be the Titans. It was football season, so I started asking. We always talk about football, and they watch it on TV, and I was like, Nashville's just 30 miles down the road, and started talking to them, and none of them, but most of them had never been to an NFL game, and I go every home game. I'm at watching the Titans, and I was thinking to myself, that's just not fair for those guys. So it was fun. It was right around Thanksgiving. We always used to give away frozen turkey, and I was like, that's so chintzy. It's like giving away a frozen turkey. It's like, give them a hug and a turkey. It's and so this year when we gave them a turkey, we also told them that the next, I believe it was a Thursday night game where we were playing Indianapolis. We said we gave them the cold frozen turkey, and then we also said and we're going to get some buses, and everybody's invited and their family to go attend the Titans Thursday night football game against Indy, which we lost, but everybody had a great time though, and it was just one of those experiences where they were kind of taken back, and we've done that every year since, and it's just really paid off because it created, you can't. Everybody's not motivated by money, and it's like you can't, even winning. Like we have losses, we lose sometimes, we win sometimes, but it's about that connection that we have with our employees that makes them focused on always being better, and they know that we love them and care for them and their families. Making that connection was just as important as it was for Wayne going out and really making the connection with the customer, so that we could, ultimately affect our product. We did some other kind of crazy things besides the frozen turkeys, which was we came out with these things called Bill Bucks. We always say, a pat on the back. We're saying like, great job out there. You really worked hard today. But pats on the back, you don't really remember. You remember them, you go home that day and you're like, I did a good job, and Jesse patted me on the back. That was cool. But we wanted something that they could really take with them and remember. And so we came out with these things called Bill Bucks, where basically they look like cash, and we hand them out to employees if they ever do a good job. And then we have like a company store where we went through and redid our branding, and so they can buy, T-shirts, Carhartt jackets, all kinds of stuff, and it's just great because they love going to the store, and it's almost like a bragging thing for them, because it's like they want to be better, they want to have the most Bill Bucks, and it's also neat seeing the just kind of what a family environment we've created, because a lot of times guys will get a lot of Bill Bucks, and they'll share them with other guys. If this guy wants to get a Carhartt jacket, but he doesn't have 85 Bill Bucks yet, I've seen a lot of times where these guys are sitting there, pitching them, and there's nothing more rewarding than seeing that kind of camaraderie with your family. But the other thing about it was we wanted to really make something that was consistent. We wanted to hold ourselves accountable to the image that we were creating, because it's easy to talk, we're going to send Wayne out, but then all of a sudden it's like you kind of get more focused on, you can kind of veer off the path that you're really looking at. So we went through and we redid all of our logo, and we wanted to make sure that everything had the same effort and attention in all of our branding. We wanted to put that same effort that we were expecting, we wanted our image to reflect what we felt inside. And that really paid off, and people, I don't know, what do you think, Mike? It's like, in terms of redoing what do you want me to say about the logo and the...
Well, I think the way I was looking at it is you figure out how to rebuild your community within your company. You figure out how to rebuild your community within the industry by having Wayne going out and dealing more with that. But then from an overall branding perspective, you're trying to create that same type of thing with a larger audience.
Yeah, that's what. Appreciate that, Mike.
What do you say?
Exactly. No. Well, we redid that, but we wanted, it was like, you know, people come out with these, you see these great ads in the, you know, like you're flipping through the Hardwood Floors magazine, you'll see a company and they'll have a great ad. And then you go by their booth and you get a pencil, you know, and it's like it's like some cheap pencil. And it's like, hey, thanks for stopping by our booth. You know, we really care about you. And I thought the same thing. I was like, that's horrible. You know, it's like you get this #2 Chinese pencil and it's like, is that what your product is? And if it is, that's great. But if you want to be something more, you know, make what you give people the same as what what you're here for, you know. And so we really wanted those things to match up. But appreciate you guys letting me ramble for.
Thanks, Jesse. If you were in the last session, the topic there was conscious capital. Capital conscious?
Conscious capitalism.
I got it right the first time? I should have stopped there. So we want to have Chris talk a little bit about that, because what conscious capital is really more about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and how that ends up coming back to you. So what you give in your community, or what you give to your association, and what you give to the other things that you choose to participate and give your time to, you know, those things often come back to you, and Chris has some really great stories about that.
What's going on? Can you hear me with this? Yeah? All right, cool. So I made a couple notes here for Jesse if I want to impress him. No pencils and no turkeys. Check. So when they sent me the email to do this talk, one of the things they gave me was a quick little blurb talking about how CNR Flooring, and those of you who don't know, that's my company, how we use charity to benefit not only the people that we help, but also my own company. I'm going to give you a couple quick examples of maybe my own philosophy, if you will, and then I have some pretty good hard data on how it's translated into real sales for the company. I'm going to share that with you when I talk. Anybody in the Boston market here? All right, well, that's good. So maybe I'll share company names and customer names too, because then you'll know where I'm coming from. So what I'm going to 2 seconds here, I want to share you. It's a very brief paragraph, and you don't have to worry about me talking too much because I got a plane to catch. And Jeff told me if I went over my time, he's going to punch me.
No, Jesse was going to do it.
So if you get long, like they say, long in the tooth, I've got a pretty extensive charitable bio. Anybody in the room ever write a charitable bio? Sounds like bragging, but I was nominated for the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, and there are 15,000 nominees a year to get that award, and there are only 100 recipients awarded that award, so that's a pretty whittled down. Gary Sinise Foundation, we've heard all week and all last year. Gary Sinise is a 2008 recipient for his work, and I'm a 2013 recipient for my work. And so it was great because they made me write my charitable bio once I was nominated. And in the opening of my charitable bio, I have this very brief paragraph that I'd like to share, and I hope it resonates. So I believe it is my station in life to take my strengths and success and move them into the position to help those less fortunate and those that have fallen. Sometimes fate and occurrence crashes an individual or a group or a town, and somebody needs to speak to that fire and react and begin to right the misfortune. I try to be that person, and I try to teach those around me to do that as well. So that's the premise of how it all started for me. CNR Flooring's been a charitable company for, almost 30 years. I opened CNR in '88 on October 1st, and October 2nd I went to Catholic Charities. I knocked on the door and I said, I exist because you exist. I was adopted through Catholic Charities. And that began my work, and we took it to the streets. So some of the examples of things we do, and forget about the amount of boards I sit on, there's a lot of them, Catholic Charities, St. Jude, Gary Sinise, things with my heritage. But in every instance, I've taken them out and I've put them out into the public. If you do charity work, and I know, everyone in the room does something, don't be afraid to bring it up, because we do press releases on some of the things that we do. And then that goes out into the community, and people get to start to figure out, hey, C&R Flooring is a community-driven company. I'm gonna hire them because they give back to the community. I need to get my floors done. I'm not gonna hire him, he cares about himself. I'm gonna hire this guy, he cares about my neighbor. But basic example, look up your VFW halls. I went into the VFW, they asked me to give them a quote on resanding the floors. So we did. We gave him a quote. I got the call from the guy who runs the place, and he said, hey, thank you very much for that discount. And I said, well, didn't everybody quoting the job give a discount? He said, no, you were the only one. I said, I'm a little embarrassed by that. I apologize. I literally said this. This is actually, this exact happened. I said, you know what? If you can wait until Christmas, because between Christmas and New Year's, we got a little slow period. We only had 2 trucks back then. I said, I'll do the job for free if you let me do it 6 months from now, right after Christmas. He's like, yeah, we can wait. So I went in, I did it. They were overwhelmed. I came back from vacation and, getting back into, January, February, we're grinding. I opened the local paper, and there's this really nice article about C&R Flooring that did the floors for free. And 2 things happened. My phone rang off the hook, and I went to rang the doorbell to do an estimate, and this guy opens the door. He goes, you the kid that did the floors? I said, yeah. He goes, listen, I'm a veteran, and I made money, and I've got this company, and I want to pay top dollar. Charge me everything. Right into the community. So, and that happened a lot. People were like, we hired you because you did the gym. The other thing that happened is I got a phone call from every VFW for miles. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. So, my guys love doing it. My guys get involved in the charity, but to be frank, I insist on paying my guys for their work. Some of them come back, they're like, no, I don't want to get paid for today. And I'm like, listen, I'm paying you for today because I pledged to do this. So your efforts, I appreciate it, but take the money. You want to go off the record? Here, take the cash, take your wife out to dinner, whatever. But I make sure I pay my guys. We do a gymnasium for a Catholic school. I've been doing it for I don't know how many years anymore. And I refuse to take money from them. But what I did do, I converted the money, the value of the sand and finish, buff and coat, and I converted it into my own scholarship fund. And I pick less fortunate person who can't afford to go to private school. And there's a family in town that 5 of their daughters, they're the family that's first at the pew in church every year. And the guy's got 5 daughters, and he's a night manager of a Walmart. He cannot afford private school, and all 5 of his kids have gone there. He has no idea. He thinks they keep qualifying for this grant. That's not important. What is important is the pride that my guys get when they go every year and we do the gym. And I'm proud to say the first daughter went through. She was first in her class in 6 categories, and the local bank picked her up and she went to college for free. And she never would have been in that place if C&R wasn't a charitable company. So that same school was a little run down at times, and their bus was 14 years old. And I heard a story about how the bus broke down when they were traveling on about an hour and a half away in not a great place, coming back from a sports thing. So they don't have the funding, so we bought them a bus. And it caused a bit of an uproar with some people, but because we went PR heavy on it. I mean, C&R Flooring bought a bus, and then the papers put it in, and we really put it out there. But the amount of calls that came into the company, it's not bragging if you're telling people I'm helping people, because I want people to give more money to me so I can give it out to people, and then we get more business, and then my guys do better. And trust me, this works. We've been doing it forever, and I urge you to do what you can. We've done it from Emmanuel House, which was a Roxbury. We built a gym in Roxbury. I took 3 weeks off myself, and guys came in. I was painting walls. I have stories of nuns in habits helping me build scaffolding to get this gym done over. And it was just awesome. great feeling, and then the Roxbury community came out and did a piece on it. If you do something great for the community, they're going to come out, and then your company's going to become known for this. It's going to become pretty regular. We've gotten to the point where I've been able to open my own foundation, and we help families in immediate crisis, and there's a lot of them. We had an individual who didn't go to work for 2 years because his wife was stage 4, and she made it 2 years. But we heated his house for 2 seasons in a row. And people give me checks, and they're like, look, I don't know who to give to, but I know the money's going to go the right place, so here you go. But then other people call and they go, I'm hiring you because you're the charitable company. So I urge you, these are dead examples. So the one I promise you to give you a real exact fact dollar. Here's how it really translated. One of the biggest things that happened to my company, I don't want to get the dates wrong. So Hurricane Katrina was 2005. There's a thing called Mission to Mississippi. Wayland to Waveland. Wayland, Massachusetts, Waveland, Mississippi. The town was crushed. So a bunch of builders got together. We built 12 houses. It was $2 million. Built 12 houses, and we gave them all away. Criteria was you had to have a job, and you had to have kids. We gave 12 houses away. First of all, the feel-good side, getting off a plane and having total strangers run up to me at the airport and hug me was amazing. Bring a tear to your eye, I promise. And then, we floored every house. Everyone else did their thing too. It was awesome. Coming back from that, the whole time we were there, I'm talking to the lead builder who led that mission. It was called Mission to Mississippi, Americans Helping Americans, which is exactly what the Garrett Sinise Foundation is about, Americans helping Americans. That builder is a monster big custom builder. Really big stuff. $300,000 floors are not unusual. Single family homes. We never did a dime with this guy. Never even heard of him. He was up here in this other level. But here I am donating floors with him and building houses. Started talking to him on the bus, and he's like, yeah, well, we're real loyal to our guy. I'm like, I'm not pitching you. I get it. And you don't need to pitch. It'll happen eventually. That was in 2005. In 2010, 5 years later, there was an opening. I did $20,000, specifically $19,680 with that particular client. Then Hurricane Irene happened in Vermont, and I called them up. $20,000 is not a lot with a client. We're just getting our feet wet. But now another hurricane hit, and I wanted to unveil Americans Helping Americans again. So we did Operation Charlie, and we rebuilt a bunch of businesses in Vermont. I called them up for permission to use the tagline Americans Helping Americans. Put myself right back in his thought. Not only did he write me a check for $20,000 towards our mission, we raised $1.1 million to rebuild our town that flooded down. Over the next 2 years of building the town back, I kept giving him updates on our progress on Hurricane Irene. And then that's when it started to turn into real dollars. So in 2014, I did $167,000 with this company that we had never done $1 with. 2015, last year, we did $327,000 with them. This year on the books so far, we've invoiced them 70 grand. But the really cool thing is we're just dipping into 2016, and I've got $811,000 in quotes with them right now. We're going to kill it with this guy. I have a feeling we're going to cross $1 million, which that's a good customer. $1 million doing, I think it's big, I don't know. So there's an example of, hey, I introduced myself to him because we had like minds. We wanted to do charity. So the other thing I'll tell you, things you want to do is sponsor golf tournaments. If you're a golfer, it's fun. Take my advice, buy a high-end quality golf towel. Donate it. Put your company logo on it. I'm a golfer. When I go to the car ones and they give me a little crappy, I didn't swear, a little crappy, skimpy towel, it doesn't hang on my bag. I use it that day and I throw it away. Buy a nice golf towel, it's always going to hang on the bag. Golfers belong to private clubs. Private clubs have money. Just get your logo there. Give them a good golf towel. It's just free advertising. Every private school has a golf tournament. 750 golf towels. You're out there sponsoring tournaments left and right. All those private kids have big houses. It translates. It's doing charity, but it turns into money. So, that's all I got.
Well, hopefully this morning you've been able to see 3 different ways that community gets built and how it comes back in a different way, whether it's a customer trip or whether it's something you take back and start rebuilding your company with, or whether it's what you're doing charitably in your own community. From NWFA's perspective, we wanted to be, when we did the Gary Sinise Foundation, we had gone from we tried to do a charitable build out, doing somebody's floors every year after Expo as a community service day for everybody to participate in, but that gets really hard when you can't control the construction schedule and you have one day where you actually have labor in town to do a project. So this for us is much, much better, and it gets much more of the supply chain involved all the way down the chain. So we're really excited about that. And again, I know I've talked a lot about it at this show, but it really has changed the way that we're able to build community within the industry. And we also then took that to heart internally. And part of what we learned from the Merits experience and being on their customer advisory board was you have to look internally first before you can look externally. And so we decided that if we were going to ask our members to participate in this way, that we also needed to be doing some things in our local community. And one of those things that we do is to support the Little Bit Foundation, which we did last year and we're doing again this year. So if you have toiletries, you already pay for them at the hotel, so stick them in a bag, bring them over, and drop them off in the bin in the NWFA booth, because they make kits for those for kids that, we've gone to these schools, and it's like Christmas when they get a little packet that's got hotel soaps in it, because they don't have them. And so, or a toothbrush or whatever that is. So we're also gathering school supplies for them, but we go down twice a month as a staff, and we put things together in the warehouse, whether it's school uniforms, or sometimes we go out with the people into the schools and deliver coats or shoes or whatever that looks like. And it really just changes your perspective. I know a lot of you have been to Chesterfield, and Chesterfield's your typical pretty successful suburb in America. But when you go down into the city, it's a completely different experience. And our staff gets a lot out of that, and then they have lunch on the way home after they've worked a morning. So we try to put people together that don't necessarily work together all the time, so that they have exposure to each other in a different way. And we've seen that really build our team since we've been doing that. It comes back to us in a completely different way, and I think it helps them also relate to you and what your needs are from us, which aren't necessarily charity as much as they're really good service, and that we care about you guys, and we have empathy for what you're going through, and we want to help you do the best that you can do, which is really why we're all here. So with that, I don't think, unless anybody has any questions, I think we're pretty much done. All right, well, thank you all for participating this morning. Thank you for your time.